Indra Sannibam Jagar Jagendra Sannibam Iti Mimamsa Tastasya Brahmanasa Sunabhihi Bhagavan Yagya Purusho Gajar Jagendra Sannibam Iti Mimamsa Tastasya Brahmanasa Sunabhihi Bhagavan Yagya Purusho Gajar Jajendra Sannibam Iti Mimamsa Tastasya Brahmanasa Sunbhihi Bhagavan Yagya Purusho Jagar Jadendra Sannibam Iti Mimamsam Tastasya Brahmanasa Sunabhi Bhagavan Yagya Purusho Jagar Jagendra Sannibaham Iti Mimamsa Tastasya Brahmanasa Sunabhihi Bhagavan Yagya Purusho Jagar Jagendra Sannibam. Transliteration, please repeat after me. Iti, thus, Mimamsataha, while deliberating, tasya, his, Brahmanaha, of Brahma, Saha, along with, Sunabhihi, his sons, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Yagya, Lord Vishnu, Purushaha, the Supreme Person, Jagarja, resounded, Aga Indra, great mountain, Sannibaha, like. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. While Brahma was deliberating with his sons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu rode tumultuously like a great mountain. Please repeat after me. While Brahma was deliberating with his sons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu rode tumultuously like a great mountain. It appears that great hills and mountains also have their roaring power because they are also living entities. The volume of the sound vibrated is in proportion to the size of the material body. While Brahma was guessing about the appearance of Lord's incarnation as a boar, the Lord confirmed Brahma's contemplation by roaring with his gorgeous voice. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shuddha Pada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sakrajadam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Thamsa Jivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishagan Vitam Sya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Bhashyatya Desha Tajane Vancha Kalpatarubhyasha Kripa Sindhipyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaham Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaurati Se Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. Offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Tave vasmi vina iti vigya devi tvam namam saranantikam. Hare Krishna everyone. Good morning. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class with the chapter, The Appearance of Lord Varaha. The 13th chapter is being mentioned in other scriptures also, or other acharyas who glorified, or when they were talking about Varaha's incarnation, they talk about 13th chapter, especially the verses, up to 44, I don't know when it starts, I think from 16 to 44. They glorify the verses of Bhagavatam because it captures the appearance of Lord Varaha very nicely. So we have an opportunity, good fortune, to read and discuss those verses which are glorified by other acharyas. Here we can see there's a word in the verse, there's a word Mimamsa used. Mimamsa, Prabhupada translates as deliberating. Also in our the Sad-darshanas, the 6 philosophies, one of the philosophies, Mimamsa, where Mimamsa is defined as reflection. When you're reflecting about the Vedic science, that's called Mimamsa. Also, it's also described as having a deep thought of what is mentioned in Vedas. That's also called Mimamsa. So similarly here, Brahma is deeply deliberating this form, this boar incarnation. So the word Mimamsa is used. And there's also the word Yagya Purusha is used. The Lord Varaha is called Yagya Purusha. He's one of his names is Yagya Purusha. He has many other names, Varahadev. One of the names is Yagya Varaha or Yagya Purusha. He's called Yagya Purusha or Yagya Varaha because all his limbs represent various aspects of Yagya. Yagya means a fire sacrifice. Say his lotus feet is considered the personification of Vedas. His hands are considered the paraphernalia required for Yagya. His mouth is considered the Yagya Kunda. And the fire is considered, the fire of the Yagya Kunda is considered his tongue. So various aspects of his body, the Kushagras is considered the hair growing on his body. And the seat where a priest sits and performs the Yagya is considered the Upanishads, which are the essence of Vedas. So the various limbs of the body of the Lord Varaha is equated to various paraphernalia or aspects of Yagya. So even when you perform Yagya, the spoon, the Shruk and Shruva we worship them as Yagya Varaha. When you purify them by showing it to the fire, you remember Yagya Varaha. And when you worship before using them for offering ahuti, you worship them with incense and flowers and chandan, the Shruk and Shubha, as Yagya Varaha. Various aspects of the limbs of the Lord. Similarly, when you consider Narsinghadev is sometimes referred as Yoga Narsinghadev, Yoga Narsimha. So he is, he can be, there is a form where he sits in a yoga pose, the Narsinghadev. So Narsingha is considered sometimes called Yoga Narsimha, and Varaha is considered Yagya Varaha. So there are many names of Varahadev. So one of the names is Yagya Purusha or Yagya Varaha, so which we saw here. Going back to the purport, here Prabhupada talks about that great hills and mountains also have roaring power. So it appears, according to Prabhupada, it appears that great hills and mountains are living entities. They grow and then they eventually slowly degrade and disappear. And they also have a roaring sound. It's not, when a big mountain, there's a big avalanche and there's a roaring sound. No, but actually the mountains apparently have a roaring sound. And it's also in other scriptures and other Vedic references that is mentioned that the mountains can actually fly. Imagine mountains flying, huge mountains flying. So it does happen. They do fly. They were mobile in previous yugas. In Kali Yuga they are not, but in previous yugas they were mobile. So there is even a pastime where Indra chops down the wings of mountains at one stage. Apparently they get very puffed up or something. I can't remember the exact pastime. So there's a instance where Indra chops down the wings of the mountains, and then they fall to the ground and they stopped flying. Atmatattva Prabhu, one of a very expert storytellers, a Prabhupada disciple, one of our senior Prabhupada disciples, when he came to Australia, he mentioned that the Uluru, they used to be flying mountains, and that one time their wings being chopped and then they've been dropped. Because when you look at Uluru, if you've been there, there's no other mountains around. The King Canyon and Uluru, they are only those big rocks. There's this one big monolith just standing there with usually a mountain has a range. It's connected to a particular range. Like what are we in Eastern Barrier, we have the Eastern Barriers here, which, goes through from Muraramba all the way. It goes down to Kosciuszko National Park and all. So it's a mountain range, the Eastern Divider Range. It's a range. The Himalayas is a range. It starts all the way from Afghanistan and goes all the way till end of Burma. It's one big range. The Western Ghats in India, starts from Vindhyachal and goes all the way to the Indian Ocean. It's a range. So the mountains are mountain ranges. But when you look at Uluru, it's just one massive monolith. So according to him, don't ask me for Shastric reference. This is something what he mentioned. So I'm just repeating that Uluru could be one of those flying mountains whose wings got chopped off by Indra, and then ended up in the middle of Australia. So these wonderful things like the mountains can roar, fly. It's all very hard for us to explain to the scientists or people who don't have a Vedic understanding or who don't accept the Vedic authority. Especially for preachers, when we are talking about this, when they read about this, they immediately question and there's some kind of fiction, something like Lord of the Rings kind of a thing written. Has anybody read the Lord of the Rings? No, I haven't read it myself. Apparently, there is also a mention in Lord of the Rings about mountains which can speak or move and things like that. So there is some, yeah. I haven't personally read, so apparently I heard that there is mention. So similarly, one might think Bhagavatam could be one of those fictitious work, like the Lord of the Rings or something. But no, these are authoritative scriptures spoken by great saintly Vaishnavas and Acharyas, very intelligent personalities. They are not just any normal people. Apparently, not apparently, the Acharyas who have written commentaries of Vyasadeva himself, they are extraordinarily intelligent personalities, and they have confirmed all these things. So if they have confirmed all these things, it must be true. Even the incarnation of Lord as Brahma, as a boar, even his appearance as boar is, it's hard to explain to people who don't accept Vedic authority. Generally, a boar, in a common term, a pig, is not considered a very clean animal. It's not a very, even the food chain, it's not a glorified animal. No, it's not a lion or an eagle. It's not considered a great animal. It's pig. Pig usually is, even in fifth canto, Veer Varaha, stool-eating hog. It's considered, it's a low-class animal, animal in a mode of ignorance. I remember growing up as a child, the town close to my house, there was a big sewage channel. In India, you can see a big sewage channel. And, my father take me to the town, to shopping or anything. I always look forward to see these piglets, this pig and this little piglets. They're quite cute, but they live in the sewer. That was my pastime. Oh, where are the piglets, running around? But they live in sewer, quite filthy places, And here you can see the Lord appearing in a form of a pig. So it's very hard for somebody to understand how the Supreme Personality of God, the Lord of the universe, who created the entire planetary, the three planetary systems and all the universes emanating from me, he appears as a pig. It's very hard to comprehend for us. So in Mahabharata it says, when it comes to topics which are achintya, our philosophy is achintya beda, beda tattva. In Mahabharata it says, when a topic is achintya, there is no point of vada. There is no point of arguing about it. You either accept it or you don't. You choose to accept it or you choose not to accept it. That's achintya. There's no point of, because it's inconceivable for somebody to understand. It's beyond our intelligence. Like again, when I was young, the TV was introduced. The black and white TV, huge TV. In my street, my family was the first one to buy TV. So everybody used to come and give 50 paisas to watch TV. It's like all the kids used to come. And I used to think, how people are inside the TV singing and dancing. As a child I was thinking, how did they get in? Probably when I go to sleep, they got in and then they perform, and then when I go back to sleep, they go. I'm just speculating with my mind, how it works, how the TV works. I still don't know how TV works. So you try to understand by your own intelligence. People some or other way enter the TV at night when you're not around, and they dance and sing and speak, and they get out when you go back to sleep. That's how, you use your limited intelligence to extrapolate or try to understand something which is inconceivable. Similarly, here, the Lord's appearance is inconceivable. for even Brahma to understand. What is that? In I think in Hamsaguya prayers, Daksha says, living entities could never understand you without your mercy, because their understanding, or they are made up of the three modes of material nature. Their body, their mind, their intelligence, they're all made of the three modes of material nature. And you are beyond these three modes of material nature. So how can somebody who has only access to these three modes of material nature understand something which is beyond these three modes of material nature? So according to Daksha, a living entity could never understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's like somebody gives you a bag of rice and tells you to make rasgullas. It's not possible, because it's two different, completely different elements. Rice you can make, rice. You can make it with, mix it with dal and make idlis or dosas, but you could never make milk sweets out of it. It's a completely different quantity. Similarly, the Lord is a complete different quantity to what we have access to. Now, we have a bag of rice. And, it's more than bag of rice, but, it's a bag of, what Prabhupada said, bag of urine, mucus, stool, and blood, bile. That's the bag we have. And the Lord is Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, Ujjvala. His body is made of Satchidananda Vigraha. So we could never understand. And similarly, even Brahma could not understand. So here, Brahma is a bit deliberated. He's thinking, who is this? I sneezed. Usually somebody sneezes. Certain things come out. Not a little piglet. And then suddenly this little piglet covers the planetary system. So Brahma is confused. Who is this person? And then Krishna, out of his mercy, since Brahma is a devotee, reveals himself by his roar. By his roaring, he reveals himself. And then through the roaring, Brahma can understand, oh yeah, this is not any ordinary pig. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So without that mercy of the Lord, the Lord revealing himself, there is no way Brahma could understand. Same thing happens in Krishna Lila. In Krishna book, Prabhupada writes about Brahma. Brahma is confused to see this ordinary young boy. This ordinary young boy performing all this wonderful activities. He's thinking, who is this little kid? And he does. He couldn't understand, how can he be Supreme Personality of Godhead? He's just a little kid. He's just a little kid, and the little kid, not the little kid of a highly elevated Brahmana family, or a little kid from a great Kshatriya family, because generally Brahmana and Kshatriyas have powers. Brahmanas have the power of mantra and Vedas, so they can perform wonderful activities. They have access to it. And Kshatriyas similarly have they have perfected yoga, and so they know Anima and Lagima to some extent. So they can perform some mystic activities. But here, this little boy is born in a cowherd family. Yadavas are not in Varnashram system. Yadavas are not, the cowherd men are not considered, on top of the food chain. They're not, high class considered. Yadavas are, they're Vaishyas. Even in Vaishya, there are various levels of Vaishyas. The Vaishyas who sell gold, they are considered higher class Vaishyas, even within Vaishya communities. So there's different gradations. And out of the Yadavas are not, even within the Vaishya community, are not considered a top, a superior community. They're considered a, slightly inferior community. And here this young boy, born in this Yadava community, a community, kid from this Yadava community is performing all these things. Who is this kid? So he is bewildered. He's bewildered, Brahma. And he's saying, I can't understand that, after he realizes this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's thinking, I could never comprehend this little kid born in this Yadu family or Yadava community is the Supreme Personality of Godhead with all my intelligence. I'm the creator of this cosmic world. He is deliberating there. I created this material world. The Vedas came from me. I understand Vedas. Vedas are born from me. But still, I'm not able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I could not comprehend, I could not understand, I could not fathom how the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared in a cowherd community, and he is playing with the other cowherd men like equals and eating food out of their hand, which is tasted, which is contaminated by them, the other cowherd men. Generally, people of higher class communities, they don't eat food from a lower class community. Brahmanas generally, don't eat from a lower class community or from the hands of the lower caste community. Even if they eat, they purify it and then eat it. But here you see the Supreme Personality of Godhead eating, taking food from other Gopa's hand and eating it. So Brahma is completely shocked. He could not understand. He just could not fathom. For us, we're all, me all born in a very low class village surroundings. So for us, eating out of somebody else's plate, it doesn't look abominable. But if you're trained up in a very strict varnashram system, where all the rules and regulations are followed very strict, it's very dirty to eat from somebody's hand, food tasted by somebody else. But here the Supreme Personality of Godhead is doing it. So Brahma was completely awestruck. I just could not understand how this boy can be the Supreme Person. So, of course, Krishna, out of his costless mercy, just because Brahma is his devotee and we all follow in Brahma's footsteps, he reveals himself like here. He reveals himself to his devotees. What is it? Vedeshu dullabam adullabam atma bhakto. To know the Lord through Vedas, it's impossible. But through devotion, he can be easily achieved. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santa sadava hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya gunasurupam govindamadi purushantamaham brajami. Premanjana, with the eyes, ointment of love. The material eyes can't see anything. Without sun it can't even see, without light it can't even see itself, its own body. It can't even see, the eye can't even see the eye itself. But by premanjana, by the ointment of love, by the mercy of the Lord and by the mercy of the devotees, the Lord is revealed to the devotees, and the devotees can easily approach the Lord and worship the Lord. He appears in the form of deity for us. Out of his inconceivable energy, he appears in the form of a deity. And what is it? This morning we were singing Alola Chandra. No, not Alola Chandra. What is it? Angani yasya sakalendriya vritti manti pashyanti panti kalayanti chiram jaganti. He is the Lord who creates, maintains, and annihilates, maintains all the planets, Chiram Jaganti, all the moving and non-moving planetary system, and his limbs can perform various activities. He can see through, he can eat through his eyes. He can smell through his mouth. He can speak through his thighs. So in the form of deity, he appears and he offers, he accepts food, cooked by people accepts the worship what we perform out of his causeless mercy. When Madhavendra Puri offered the Lord, he could see the Lord is accepting the prasadam offered to him. He is consuming the food offered to him. At the same time, the food is appearing again. It's Ananda Chinmaya. It's inconceivable potency. The food is consumed at the same time it appears. So he could see that. So the Lord is inconceivable, and he gives us an opportunity to worship in the form of a deity. So that's the glory of the Lord. So these concepts, it's very hard for us to explain to scientists, because scientists want rational explanation. But this can't be rationally explained. This is explained through faith. Even the so-called rational scientists, there's a lot of irrational scientific anomalies, which they can't explain. Theoretical physics. There's so many. There's so many unknowns. There's so many blanks. They know something and they don't know how to bridge the gap between what they know and what their other assumption is. And so to prove that they have the practical physicist, what they call them? Experimental physicists who try and prove what the theoretical physicists deliberated. So there's so many gaps even in their own understanding. But according to them, unless it is declared by science, they can declare things which are inconceivable. But if the Shastras declare, they won't accept. And so that's the modern day physicist or scientist. Of course, there are scientists who believe, who do say that the nominal world which we see can be explained through physics or through science, and things which are not conceivable is explained through religion. There are a certain set of scientists like Newton, they understood or they appreciated the religion, the aspect of religion, which explains things which are beyond them. Even if you take what are the prevailing theories? Like the theory of relativity. There's many realities, according to theory of relativity. The reality, what we perceive, is based on the four dimension, which is length, breadth, and length, width, and height, x, y, z axis, and time. So this four dimension, including time, becomes space. So we form a dimensional living entities. We can understand only these four concepts of four dimension. Out of this four dimension, we can see three, and one we can perceive. Time we can perceive. Even the fourth element we can't see. We can only perceive that time exists. So we can't even, so that's theory of relativity. So if you go, according to theory of relativity, if you go to, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, and more dimensions, there are there are realities which can be perceived, if you have access to those dimensions. So according to theory of relativity, there are, various other realities which we can't see. So similarly here, the mountains roaring and the boar becoming a gigantic boar. It's all the different realities which, with us with only access to four dimensions, can't perceive. The quantum theory. According to quantum theory, there are parallel universes. This is the current universe where we live in, and there's other parallel universes, and there could be many parallel universes, and there could be many, of same people or different people doing the same things or different things. In different, in a different parallel universe, you could be sitting here and listening to a class or doing something else. So there's, even quantum theory has, parallel universes according to scientists. Well, of course, I'm not very expert in it. Maybe Shriman Nrsimha would know more about these things. So even from a scientific point of view, there are things, anomalies, which are very hard to understand. How the scientists work, they come up with a theorem as an assumption. There's a different word they use. I can't remember the word they use. There's another assumption, and then you try to prove that assumption with various known phenomena. I did my bachelor's in mathematics, and I used to get frustrated when my teachers used to teach me this theories. They'll say, "Oh yeah, this is a theorem. Memorize the theorem," and I'm asking, "How is this theorem comes in place?" No, we assume this theorem, and then we will prove based on the facts which we know. And I just could not get my head around it. I used to get frustrated with all these theorems. They just want me to memorize it and use some concepts which and try to prove something like a reverse engineering. It used to really bother me. Anyways, so that's the modern science. Even then, they have to work on assumptions and presumptions and then try to prove it. But here, Bhagavatam clearly explains various concepts, and it's all accepted by great personalities, and they put their name underneath it, certifying it. So here we go. That's talking to scientists. So coming back to Varaha here, Varaha Dev, Varaha. Prabhuji asked me about a few days ago about the Varaha Incarnation, about the ocean where the Earth planet has been submerged. I guess in text 44 in the same chapter, it is said Varaha, it says the word used is Bhumandala, not just the Earth planet, but the entire Earth Mandala. The Earth Mandala has various Varshas. So there's Kimpurusha Varsha, Hari Varsha, there's so many Varshas. And Bharata Varsha is just one Varsha out of that. So when Varaha picked up from the deep ocean with his tusk, he didn't just pick up just the Bharata Varsha. He picked up the whole Bhumandala. So we don't know, we kind of know the size of our Earth. You go around the plane, you kind of measured the equator, and we know the circumference of the Earth. But Bhumandala is much more bigger than the Earth, what we know. So the Lord, Varaha, lifted this Bhumandala, not just the Earth, from the deep ocean. So in Swayambhava Manu's Manvantra, Varaha, he appeared in a different color. I think it's Rakta Varaha. I could be wrong. In that color, he liberated Earth from the ocean of dissolution. So when Brahma goes to sleep, or when Brahma takes a nap, the world gets inundated with water. The water rises and it inundates the Bhumandala. And similar, it happened that's what happened in Swayambhava Manu's time. And Varaha appeared and picked up Earth which was submerged in the dissolution of the water of dissolution in Swayambhava Manvantra. In the sixth Manvantra, the Shakshushu Manvantra, the one before us, That's when Hiranyaksha, who's a great trickster, Mayavi, trickster, he took the Bhumandala from its orbit and hid it deep under Garbhodaka ocean. Deep under Garbhodaka ocean. And then Sveta Varaha, the Lord appeared in the white color, and then he picked up the Bhumandala from the Garbhodaka ocean and placed her back in her orbit. So, Achintya, yes, we can't understand. Well, sometimes Achintya is explained as something, you might understand some aspects of Achintya, but you might not be able to understand the full extent of Achintya. So some understanding what we have is when Hiranyaksha hit the earth, the Bhumandala in the deep ocean, he hid it in a very filthy place. So, which is the animal which can go in land, which can go in water, which can go in a very filthy place? Boar. A pig is an animal which can go even in a very filthy place. If it is even fish can't live in a very filthy water, it will die. It needs some kind of oxygen, dissolve some kind of. If it is too much filth, there will be a high amount of nitrogen, and fish can't live. It becomes dead. But a sukkar, a boar, a pig, can even go in very dirty water. So, when the Lord decided, he wanted to pick up, he decided, okay, pig is the dirty animal, it can go into the most dirtiest part. So he assumed the form of a pig and went underneath the deep ocean and rescued Mother Earth, Bhumi, from Garbhodaka Shai Vishnu. That's one of the reasons why he appears in the form of a pig. Of course, the Lord is independent. He's Swarat. The first verse, Janmadasya Thonvaya Itaratas Chatesha Abhigya Swarat. He's Swarat. He's independent. He can do whatever he wants. If he wants to appear as a pig, he can appear as a pig. Just because he's appeared as a pig doesn't make him any less supreme. He is still the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just because he has appeared as a pig, we are sitting in a Vyasasana and we are discussing about a pig. It's because of him. And so he can appear as anything he wants. Again, you can see here the word is Garjana. Garjana is used. Garjana is, a pig doesn't do Garjana. Garjana means roaring. A pig doesn't roar. A pig growls or oinks. If it is a little pig, it oinks. If it is a big, wild pig, it growls. The growling of a pig. But here, it's Garjana, lion garjanas. Lion roars. You don't see any other animal roaring. A lion roars. So here, even though he appears as a pig, he garjana, he roars. So he is uncommon. The activities he performs is uncommon. He can do whatever he wants. He is Swarat. He out of his, the entire planetary system is floating out of his, by Ananta's gravity. By the strength of gravity. If he wants, he can, just by his thought, he could have liberated Mother Earth. But, he has a desire to appear as Varaha in the form of a pig. And he wanted to have a pastime with Mother Earth, Bhuma Devi. So he appears and picks her up. And when he picks up, she appears like a mark on the moon. The whole Earth Bhumandala, sitting on a tusk of Varaha, appears as a mark on the moon. It beautifies. It's like the moon, the mark on the moon beautifies the tusk. Similarly, she is like beautifying his tusk. Then you can just imagine how gigantic the form of Varaha is. It's huge. Appears. And so he's independent. He can do whatever you want. His Swarat. So if he wants to appear as a pig, he appears as a pig, and as a glorious pig. So all the great Acharya, is a glorious pig, which is glorified in Bhagavatam, in all the scriptures. There's a Purana written after him, Varaha Puran. So it's wonderful of Varaha. So there are other names also. Yagyavaraha is one name. There's Bhuvaraha is another name because he rescued Bhuma Devi. It's called Bhuvaraha. There's another name. His name is called Adivaraha. Adivaraha is the first primeval Lord, Adivaraha. So, have anybody been to Tirupati? Tirupati? You've been to Tirupati, yeah. The Tirupati, the original Tirupati Kshetra is a Varaha Kshetra, Adi Varaha Kshetra. The Lord Balaji, Venkateshwara, he came later. So the original Venkata Hill is the place of Adi Varaha. So the original deity. That's why he's called Adi Varaha. The original deity is Adi Varaha. So when you go to Pushkarani, which is the pond, so before you go to the temple, you take bath in the pond. And very next to the pond is the deity of Adi Varaha with Bhudevi sitting on his lap. So the tradition is you don't go and see Balaji straight. You always go and see the Adi Varaha first, because he is the predominating deity, is the original deity in the Varaha form. And you worship him, you take his blessings, and then you go and see Balaji. So that's a tradition. So that's one of the name is Adi Varaha. So there's many pastimes of Varaha Dev, not just limited to his appearing and liberating. One other name of Varaha Dev is also Mayavi Varaha, illusionist, because Hiranyaksha had mastered a lot of illusions. So he can perform various illusions. So you need to be an expert illusionist to defeat an illusionist like Hiranyaksha. So in future verses you can see how Hiranyaksha uses various tricks. But the Lord is a supreme trickster, a supreme illusionist. So his name is he's also sometimes called Mayavi Varaha. It means illusionist boar. And there's another pastime where, 40 kilometers from my house, 50 kilometers from my house, one of the Divya Kshetrams, one of the old Divya Kshetrams are in Shiva Vaishnava Sampradaya, the holy places, the 108 holy places. One of the 108 holy places is a Varaha Kshetra again, and where the deity of Varaha is worshipped. The pastime goes, there was a rishi who had 360 daughters, and Kavala rishi, if I remember right. Kavala rishi. And that Kavala rishi had 360 daughters, and after giving birth to 360 daughters, the mother went back to Godhead. She went to Satyaloka, the description is. This is according to the Sthala Purana, the history of the place. The Sthala Purana should be considered as, even though if it is not mentioned in any of the scriptures, the tradition is it's still considered a valid, authoritative scripture, the history of a location. So according to the Sthala Purana, this Kavala Rishi had 360 daughters, and he really struggled to bring up these 360 daughters. To start with, he's a rishi, so he has to do his 3 times oblations, he has to take bath, and he has this 360 daughters to look after. So he used to beg everybody, all the other rishis who are married, to look after them, and they help them out. So that's how he brought them up, and then he has to get them married. So, he went to this particular location, Kshetra, holy place, and he worshipped the Lord. And the Lord appeared there apparently from Jagannath Puri. The Lord came, and then he married all these 360 daughters of this rishi in a year time. So every day he worshipped, married one daughter. So 360 days he married all these 360 daughters of this rishi. And then he assumed the form of Varaha. And the pastime goes is that when Bhuma Devi was lifted by Varaha, she fell in love with him. She was attracted to the Lord, so she wanted to marry him. So then in the next incarnation or next appearance, she appeared as 360 girls of this Kavala Rishi and performed penances to marry Varaha. And Varaha, to satisfy her desire, appeared as Varaha Dev in this particular location and married her. So in that temple, Varaha Dev has a marriage every day. There's a marriage ceremony for the Lord every day. So the Aidigam or the tradition is, if people who have problem with marriage, who can't get married or something, they go and worship this particular deity and they are given blessings to get married. So it helps them to get married. I guess in Kali Yuga everybody has problem with getting married. So I guess there's a lot of crowd going there. They're getting the mercy of the Lord. Also, so after marrying the 360 girls, she combined them all. He combined them all afterwards, and he combined them all into one person, and she became Bhuma Devi. And the Lord is having her in this particular deity. The Lord has Bhuma Devi seated on his lap, and he's also holding her very tight. She's not just sitting and he has his hands. He's holding her very tight, like a great treasure. He's holding her very close to her heart, holding her. But the explanation is he's showing the real treasure for the devotees is to worship, Radharani or Lakshmi. By worshipping her, she is a real treasure. By worshipping her, one can easily get the benefit or the mercy of the Lord. In the same place, he's on a standing position. He has one leg on the ground, and the other leg he has it on Anantashesh, and also he has Maitreya Muni. He is revealing this pastime to Maitreya Muni. So there's a deity of Maitreya Muni. There's Shesha, Anantashesh in his lotus feet, and the other feet he is grounded on the ground. So you can see Maitreya Muni actually saw this whole pastime of Varaha Dev in that particular Divya Kshetra, and he deliberates, he explains. Here this is what Maitreya Muni is explaining. So Maitreya Muni has, you can see the deity of Maitreya Muni in this particular temple, the form of Maitreya Muni. So when Bhuma Devi has the opportunity to sit in the Lord's lap, she prays to him, by your mercy, I got this opportunity to be your consort and to be sitting on your lap. What happens to my children? They're all lost in samsara. They're all my children, and they're all suffering. How, give us a means to rescue them. So he speaks a Charama Sloka. A Charama Sloka, so in Sri Sampradaya, a Charama Sloka is important. It gives the essence of a particular incarnation. So in Ramayana, the Charama Sloka is when Rama gives his shoes to Bharat, and he says, if one, just once, comes before me and says, I surrender unto you, I save him from all calamities. That's my promise. So he says that to Bharat, his younger brother Bharat. So he says, just once when a person comes before me and says, I'm surrendering to you, I look after. So that's the Charama Sloka from Ramayana, the essence, the climax or the essence of Ramayana. Similarly, Krishna, the Charama Sloka is, can anybody say what's the Charama Sloka? What could be the Charama Sloka? Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam saranam vraja. Thank you. Yeah. Just give up all the dharmas, other unwanted dharmas, not all the dharmas, all unwanted dharmas, and just surrender unto me. And I save you from all sinful reactions. So similarly, when Bhudevi, for thinking us, petitioned the Lord, she says, Aham Shishyai Dasi, I'm your servant, I'm your student. Please instruct me, through which not just me, but the entire living, all my sons and all my, pretty much every living entity is the son or is the progeny of Mother Earth. We all come from Mother Earth. So we are all her children. So she is begging to the Lord. And the Varaha says, if a person, when he still has the mind when his mind is still sane, when his body is still fit, when his senses are still in working condition, when the intelligence is still sharp, when he remembers me and deliberates on me, remembers me, that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm the creator of this material world. I'm the closest one to everything. I'm the Lord of all the Lords. I'm the Supreme Person. If he remembers me when he is young and fit, not young and fit, when his senses are still working, I assure you, my Devi, my goddess, that on his deathbed, when he's incapacitated, when he can't move, when he's like a vegetable, even if he's like a vegetable, I will remember him. So this is my guarantee. This is my promise. So that's a Charma Sloka of Varaha Puran. So where he guarantees, Varahadev guarantees his concert that, when a person remembers the Lord, when senses are working, the Lord will remember him during the death. Now that's all a person can ask for, taking birth in this material world. You don't know what happens during our birth. We could be, in a defibrillator, can't speak, have anesthetics and things like that. We may not even have consciousness when we leave our body. But if a person remembers the Lord, when he has the right intelligence, when he has the right mind, the mind hasn't gone crazy. When you get old, some people lose their mind. What to speak of old, when they're young, people lose their mind. So when the Lord assures, even if the Lord says something, it's hard, but when he promises his devotee, it becomes special. He guarantees, I guarantee you, Devi, but I will remember them. I will remember. So that's a blessing, Charma Sloka. This particular one sloka, many acharyas have written huge commentaries. It's just a one 4-line verse, but a lot of acharyas have written